See, now that we learned about the advantage of querying the URLs or whatever the search terms are there in it, its relevance we know. At the same time, there are a few things that would give us an added advantage if we are to query the links. One reason is that a lot of times we want to know mentions about us or about a site, and we want to know if we are popular enough or there is some links that is pointing to our web pages, but it's coming from a source of authority that we would appreciate and would really add to the ranking results, would give us that advantage of being considered as a better ranking website. Depends on the authority of the page where the links are set and they're pointing to our websites or the websites that we feel that we want to know about. Some of the reasons that we like to query it besides that is to know if somebody's copied any of our things or is using our links without our permission, right. Things like that. So we want to know where those links are sitting. And so we query it through an operator called link with a colon sign. So it sort of scrapes all the web pages and it, collects all those links and brings to us. And then we can see where they're, actually coming from or the source of it. That is the advantage. So link colon is something that we'll be using. Another reason why we use in URL as well is to query words that are sort of appearing as anchor links. And what the in URL is reading is the text that sort of has a hyperlink behind. So if it is a word of any sort or any statement or any search phrase that is hyperlink, which means that it sort of when you scroll over it, it changes color and it shows that if you click on it, it's going to take you somewhere. Or there is a link that is behind those words, which gets activated when you click on those words. And therefore, it then again takes you out of that page and leads you to another destination page. Those are the hyperlinked words. So supposing in this slide, you see that we have something, well, the easiest way of showing hyperlink is actually on the website or anywhere that you want to go and check. Almost all sites have those hyperlinks. As an example, even this navigation is a hyperlink. And if I go anywhere else, membership, let's say, and see these clickable words apply now, they're hyperlinked, meaning that if I click on them, they'll take me somewhere. Again, over here, online classes bootcamp has a hyperlink behind it. So online classes and bootcamp, all these words are considered for querying all the hyperlinks that are out there by using in URL. If I had used in URL online classes bootcamp as a single search phrase, it will find this site also, right? But at the same time, it is not really querying the hyperlink itself, but querying the words. Okay. So that's the thing about hyperlink. When you use or look for hyperlinks using in URL, it is not reading the URL, but it's reading the words in front of it. So that is where we want to look for hyperlinks as well using in URL. But now, or there used to be a, um, an operator before. Now that operator is no longer valid. What it used to do is just look for anchor links, and it would say anchor link colon. That was the one that was only exclusively meant for doing this. But now in URL does it for some weird reason, even though it should read the URL behind, but it reads the words. But anyway, because that is flaky, at a lot of times it doesn't work that well. So what we do is that we use a special utility, or there are special programs, softwares that only search for hyperlinked texts, and not only that, but all the links that are out there, including hyperlinks, are collected. That utility is useful for SEO, for people who are checking on plagiarism all the time, constantly. So one of the softwares that work really nicely is this one. It's called ahref.com/link checker. I don't mind testing it out just to show you how it works. I believe it's a free one. So let's suppose I enter a domain here, AOFIRS.org, and let's check all the backlinks and everything in there, include, let's see what else we have. Extract URLs, domains, extract URLs. Okay. And I'm going to hit enter and see what it does. Not a robot. Okay. So now it is bringing me, collecting the links for me, and it has actually showing me the type of links that are there. There are some links that are called no follow links. No follow links are intentionally set in a way that it tells the robots that are coming to fetch those pages from Google or wherever to not to archive that or not to index that page. Those are called no follow links. You probably wouldn't be able to find these links if you are just running a simple or standard search query, including the one that is using in URL, because no follow links will not be indexed, and therefore they are not available. But when you use utilities like this one, it's going to also extract no follow, like which of these links are the ones that are intentionally set by the domain it's or whoever is using it to not to follow it. So those are revealed as well, and this way we can see and fine tune it to review, and maybe maybe it's an error, or maybe there is something that you want revealed as a public information, so you may want to turn this off. Other links that are there besides low follow are the ones that are pointing inwards, or they're called inbound links, collected from outside, that does not necessarily have the domain that belongs to you. Like, it's not going to be your default domain in the link, but the domains could be others, like Zoom Shaper, for instance, worldwide top sites, and all these are not the ones that are coming from or originating from my domain, so they're from outside. Now another slide is going to get you introduced to something called date range operators, and these are obviously very useful because it gives you the opportunity to to build a query with the restraints of date range between certain day to where it should have the parameters set for the periods. So it is kind of a useful operator, mostly, well, what used to be around, and it still shows if you search online for Google operators, you'd find that they're using something called date range with a colon sign. But that is not preferable and it doesn't work that well anymore. And what date range colon used to do is that it would just use something called Julian calendar. So so that you know how the before and after operators replaced date range, and where you find that date range still works. The preference is never to use date range, instead to replace it with the ones that I'm going to introduce you to. What used to be there before in date range was a date, for example, any date you put, and then you used to put 2 dots and then put another date. But the problem with date range was that you had to actually convert this date into a Julian calendar, which is just going to be a bunch of numbers, and it's a hassle to do, and it's flaky, it's not as reliable. So what has happened now is that it got replaced by operators like after. That means anything after a certain date. So let's suppose it's 2021. And if you had to give it a range, so anything that comes after, let's say 2021 November day to 22nd would show up in the query, or it will bring will actually bring back results that are related to a date which is coming after this date that you put in. So after with the colon means anything after November 22nd. And if it was something like before, that means prior. So anything that is before this date would show up when you use before and colon sign. So these were the two operators. Now you can use them as a single directive or one instance of it, or make a choice between after or before, or you can use both together in the search. Like you can do after, and you could do after a gap of a single character. So this becomes a range. This is like a range in the query. And this is more like a directive. Call this directive. And this is a range. So this is hard. Another type of operator that you can use for range are just two periods in between the date. So if you had something, well, I don't think that you may want to consider the one that I'm showing right now are the range with periods, with two periods, and that would be just like two periods like this, except that when you are using periods, you can not put the date like one that is showing here in this format or any other format. You can only show numbers. So if it is a number, let's say range between 100 to 500, you can use two periods. This will create a range. Another thing you can do with the range is that you can give it a symbol and put this will give a range for the price. If it is a range that you want to give for, let's say, postal codes 32835 to 32839, it will look for the postal codes within this range. So 32835, 32836 until 32839 is the region or postal codes that will be queried, or the area will be queried. Generally, we use it for numbers and what the search engine recognizes as symbols. So as you know, that when we were doing semantics, I mentioned that the search engine has certain type of database prepared already, which is a list of information that by default is given an attribute or a symbol that recognizes or attaches with it to inform the search that it has to do with price, when it is a dollar sign or any other symbol for the currency. If it is 32835, the 5 numbers are first of all checked against the database of postal codes to match and see if it is actually a postal code. So once that gets recognized, it is assumed to be a postal code automatically. So it is an autonomous process. So in situations like this, the two periods would give it a range, or would actually work with these values that you see here, because these are recognized values. Right? But if you're going to put the date as we did over here, and we try to put it in a date range, it will not work. Like if I try like this, it's not going to work. This is not happening. So to get this thing going, we will be replacing it with before and after. Now let's get to this slide to give you idea of how the dates are to be set, or how they have to be um, structured. So supposing I was using, as in this example, you could see I'm looking for Avengers Endgame that came out before 2019. So I'm just going to write before with the colon and 2019 simply, and not have to give the entire date, including day and month. At the same time, I can also put before the entire date with the exact day and month if I know of that, and it will still work the same, except that it is more accurate. So if it was something of the sort, let me just copy this. In fact, let's continue with this one. So let's suppose I wanted to write after. I'm still going to use the same convention. It's going to be the year first, then the month, and then the day. I will not be able to make it work if I sort of substitute the month with the day. So in between the year and the day, there has to be a value for the month, and the day has to come at the very end. So this is the convention. On the other hand, not leaving the dashes is going to be another problem. So we have to make sure that there is a dash here. You can even use, believe, the backslash to give it a date structure. Or the way you can set it is by replacing the dash with the backslash. And nothing else. I won't put anything besides dashes or the backslash. And when you are setting a date range between the two dates, you can put after and before. So it could come in the same query in the same sequence as you see right here. So after and before will give it a range. Anything that's going to come back to you in your search results related to Avengers Endgame will bring information from the dates that are in between after and before, as mentioned right here. Right. Okay. Now, there is one example. This is kind of a complex search, but let's just copy it. In fact, we have a lot of examples to follow that we'll be covering in complex search. I do think that this is part of the complex search. Okay. Now, if I put this query here, a long one, so let's suppose that this is the search query. We have used the operator after. We haven't given it a range, but we are saying anything that is brought back to us with relation to rest of the query has to stick to this date, which means anything after this date of 2019 January 1st is to show information that is restricted or coming from linkedin.com. And as you know, in the site operator and in URL, we can give a partial link, as I mentioned. So this is a partial link. It's saying linkedin.com/IN. IN is probably from India, I'm assuming. We'll see what comes out. Then we've got the OR operator right here. So I'm going to replace it with the vertical bar. Or anything that's coming from linkedin.com/pub. So these are the two site links that would work, either one of them. We've used the OR here. Continuing, we want to make sure it does not contain the word pub.dir, but what we are looking for is a JavaScript engineer in Seattle. Okay, so this is the way we have set it. Of course, we can improve it further, but that's not the idea right here. The main purpose is to identify this result with whatever comes after 2019 January. So now what we should do is look for the dates to ensure that after has worked and nothing is coming before January 2019. So literally nothing of 2018 should show up. Now, one of the things you will notice that when the results come out with the date specification, a lot of times you don't see the date appearing in your search results. But as you know that somehow the dates do exist, and this is where the search is ensuring that whatever you have set for the date to be before or after will be coming from somewhere on those pages, even though it may not be visible to you, or it may not be showing in the description or anywhere on the snippet, but it will be existing somewhere in the source code. But for now, let's see if we can read through. So here we have got October 19th. It is coming October 19th, which is
after.
Yeah, this is after. So literally
the slash n is
2019 onwards. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The slash n is in India. The slash n would be like your LinkedIn, a LinkedIn profile. So it's going to be slash n and then slash the person's name, because that's how mine shows up. After linkedin.com/in.
Did you see anything that is showing in site linkedin.com/pub. Let me try it. Let's just try
Not
it.
clear, not initially.
See, right here it is showing.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's a person's LinkedIn profile, but as far as ./pub, I'm not sure if we've seen that yet.
Wonder what IN stands for here.
I think it's your LinkedIn profile. I mean, like all of the LinkedIn profiles have a /n and then the first person's name.
I see. I thought it used to be feed before.
It might have changed.
I don't know. But okay. So for the dates, you could see that the dates are going to be after to January 1st. So all the dates that we have to be looking at, see, July 2021, nothing of 2018 should show up. I guess that was the idea when we wrote. So when it is saying a lot of times dates don't show up, and the dates that are mentioned in the description part may be several, or one of them could be, like this one, for example, it is saying September 2030, which is not after 2019, but there could be others.
It goes through March, so maybe.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Anyway, so that's one example, and I'm going to continue with looking at what else we need to. Okay, the 2 dots. How are we going to work with 2 dots? Leather size, Nikon camera. We have better examples in the book. Actually, these are old ones. I know that I've been like, it's like beating the same drum over and over. And eventually it's going to falter because it might just change, who knows. So the newest ones that we can work with, or we should be using as examples, that's what I want to pick up from. This is a good one, a long and probably a complex search query. So in a way, we're just trying out some complex search queries as well. So in that sense, like we would start with the complex searches. While we are doing complex searches, anything that's left out we'll be dealing with, and that will be included in this. Besides this, I will do 2 more operators, which in my opinion are most important. One is related, the other one is link. So we'll do that after, but let's look at the range here. See, in this one, we are asking the search to find something in linkedin.com. In URL, there should be the word jobs. So if the LinkedIn has subfolder jobs, that's where it's going to take us. And in text is the other operator I've used, which is noticeably different from in URL or anything else. The reason for in text is that words like remote, freelance, all those are going to appear on the content page itself. It's never going to be, or mostly I would say like 90% won't be part of the URL. So that's why I have used in text here instead of using in URL or in title. So in text, remote or freelance, in text, copy editor, proofreader, copywriter, or anything that appears anywhere on the page. In the text part, it has to be the word remote, that is mandatory, or wherever on the page, it finds a word freelance, it's going to look for that. In text, again, mandatory to find copy editor, proofreader, copywriter can be an option to be to be found anywhere on that page. And so it continues. Towards the end, we are looking at the salary of 36,000 and 45,000. So when we are giving it a range of salary, we are putting the two periods in between. And notice that when I'm writing the amounts with the dollar sign, I'm not putting a comma here. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Now let's try to run this and see what happens. Might just ask me to log in to the LinkedIn account. Okay. So we got the results with the there a salary somewhere. Let's go to the page.
Okay.
By the way, this was public information, and the figures might change, or anything that is archived from before or cached from before may not have the same may not give you the same results. But let's try to find something in dollars. What I would do is look for Control F and a dollar sign to see.
Oh, salary.
Wow, why? Now here are the salaries. Here they are. $30K to $50K. Now, supposing I don't want it to be specifically coming from LinkedIn. So let's try to find somewhere. Now I'm making some adjustments to this query. I want to make it appear a little bit better. I mean, the results would have the salary like this one, see 40,000 to 60,000. It'll start to give you the ranges, but usually when you are doing the prices, it's 40,000, 60, 30 to 40. So this is showing up, but I just want to improve on this. I feel that I can do a better job. So I'm actually going to show you what I would rather do, and then ask your opinion as well. If you want to watch it carefully and let me know if I'm doing it correct. I want to change this query to finding something that is got the salary mentioned between 36 and 45K, no restrictions on the site. So removing site, LinkedIn, in-text remove remote, or in-text freelance, or in-text copy editor. I want to leave this intact. In-text Florida, salary. Okay, I think this might work. So let me try this.
But there's a lot of ors in there, so not everything's going to have a salary. If it's looking for either remote or freelance or copywriter, or a copywriter with a Florida salary, right? Of 36 to 40.
It could be there. We can see. Let's look at the results, and then we can work without or, because if we don't give it an or, the restriction would probably not work well, because you
Right.
don't find all these job descriptions on single content page a lot of times,
Yeah, I'm just saying
unless
it's
it
not
is
all
from,
going to show salary. So salary will be mixed in there with everything else.
right. So that's
Yeah.
the idea, to
Okay.
find whatever from, any of these. If the salary, see, supposing proofreader is found, maybe the salary could be attached to or have a relationship, or any one of these may have a relationship to the salary range. So we can try it, and if this doesn't work, we can always change it, um, make it even better. So let's try this. It starts with 38K, 25 to 61, but it's in Florida. Copywriter, average salary, Florida, 41,636, 48.99. So whenever you're giving range in numbers, you'll find like results that would have so many different variants
Yeah.
of it, like
Right.
because they're all giving sort of on its own, it is giving ranges, and that could also include your parameter size as well as others.
Right.
But at least this is the safest and the best that you can do with the two dots right here. On the other hand, mostly when you're looking for things like prices on products, you're looking for specific type of property, for example, or rental, for example, and where the rent is mentioned, that would work really nicely as an example. Could be several more, but mostly that's where you can use the range. Next is, let's just do before and after example. I want to try out the dates or the date range now with the before and after. So let's see if I can pick some of these examples. This is another complex query we can attempt. Here we have our site restrictor. Now, losangeles.craigslist.org. So this is the, I guess this is the subdomain of Craigslist. Jobs, in-text, copywriter, whatever. So the date range is between March 31st, 2021 and May 20th. So after this, but before, is this correct? No. Date range.
Yeah, after March, before May. So sometime
before May. So, but it is
April to May.
Okay, 20th. Okay. So it is correct. Not much is coming. It's just the ads. Los Angeles, Craigslist.
Maybe because it's past history. We're now in December, so
Let's try December.
it might, yeah, I'm just saying, looking in the past might be a little more difficult if there's jobs that are not posted anymore.
There's only one job that's showing up in Los Angeles.Craigslist. And let's look at the date of advertisement.
Keep forgetting Craigslist has jobs.
There is the date.
Hmm. Or it was just, maybe it wasn't looking at date, maybe it was just looking at copy editor and.
No, it has to look for it, because that's the reason we're doing this, is to show that it is giving or bringing results from the date range.
Okay.
And it has the correct operator. So anything that I see over here has to be coming after March 2021. So here
So
we
that's,
see
yeah,
November
November.
18, 2021. I hate these sites like Indeed, Flex Job, Simply Hired. These are just fake websites, literally. I mean, don't even think about applying on any of. They're just collecting the resumes. That's all they do.
Yeah, and they redirect you to all the actual sites.
Yeah, they're
Why?
just collection agency. They're resume collectors, and then they give it to the recruiters. So April 24, 2021, June 20, 2021.
No, but it's a
So
good, it's an aggregator, so they're just pulling all the jobs into one.
exactly, yeah, that's what they're doing.
I don't know, I've used Indeed a lot. I haven't used some
Cool.
yet.
Okay, so this is the date range operator. Now another, let's get to the other two that I'm talking about, the operators, which are also very important to know. Now, if I have to find sites that are similar in what they offer, like as products or services, or the keywords are similar, or the type of industry they're in is similar, then for us to find those, as could be one of the reasons, could be that we are looking for competitors, or there is a site which used to exist that you used to like, which had certain type of information or products, and it's no longer around. So you want to find something similar to that. So what I do is I would write a query that uses an operator called related. And when I do related with the colon sign, I'm trying to find something which substitute. Remember how in the search results, individually, each snippet used to give you the option for a drop box where 3 dots are now. Used to be a downward arrow, which you, once you click that, you used to see some words appearing like similar, verbatim, or cache, those used to come in. One of the wordings that you were looking at was similar. Similar was exactly something that replaced related. And you don't see that drop down with the downward pointed arrow anymore. So they have changed it to 3 dots, which we did yesterday with the source revealing information about the link and all that. So that box is appearing instead of the drop down with the downward link. And if you had recollection of what used to be, you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But if not, that's fine.
Vaguely.
Related is showing something, it's talking about something related to. Now, the only thing that you have to be mindful of when you're using related is that you have to write, as you do in the site colon, you have to give it a domain name. So I want to find sites which are similar to CNN.com, for instance. CNN.com is what I'm going to write here as a domain, not CNN, CNN.com. And when I write CNN.com, the peculiar thing about this is that when the results show up, the CNN.com site will not appear. So what it's doing is is finding something similar to CNN.com, and that's what's going to be listed or get returned, not the CNN. Nothing from
Yeah.
CNN.com is shown.
Mhm.
So similar sites to CNN.com could be USA Today, Washington Post, C-SPAN. These are all news agencies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Only thing that prevents me from using it extensively is that it doesn't show a lot of results. First of all, it doesn't cover a lot of
Right.
grounds, like
There's a lot more
and
than
second thing is it only entertains websites that are well-known names, or they're famous, or big ones.
right.
Not like if I put AOFIRS.org, it's not going to give me any results. So that's the funny part. So anyway, but when you have to look for some, you can try it out, and if it might just work for the site that you are looking for similar ones. But for now, this is one example that shows you how it works, at least.
Okay, that's good to know.
And the next one I would
For shopping.
Yeah, for shopping, for sure. Yeah, it's
Yeah, 'cause I
Christmas
need more
time.
shoes.
For something like Amazon.com, you can
Yeah.
see Amazon is such a dominant
Yeah,
player these days.
they're taking it
It's
over the world. So yeah, let's find the better. Mhm.
true. I'm thinking of, let's try link. And with link, I'm going to use links. I try to put even though link : works with text, it is not really restricted to a domain name. And when you put the text as a word and not the domain itself, then it doesn't really serve the purpose as much, but it still brings in results similar to what you get in URL. But link is more powerful when you are collecting all sorts of links. It is more like a data scraper. It's going to go deep and look for everything that is out there which has those words, and that doesn't help much as for finding competitors, or for the reasons that I mentioned before when we collect those links put together. But when you do a domain, you're more focused. You want to know who else has a link, or where your links are spread, or where your links are mentioned, so wherever they might be. It could even be images, it could be some hidden links, it could be anything that has your domain in it. So if I write with link : and if I put AOFIRS.org, I should get all those links that are indexed by the search engine anywhere, including, so what I'm able to get from this is 57 results, but this is not sufficient. I mean, it'll even pull the video links, it'll pull images, everything that has to do with AOFIRS. But what I'd rather do when I don't get enough results, I say to the search, repeat the search with the omitted results included. So if I do this, I get 4,020,000 results. If I have to do a very extensive search, and I want to give the search engine the ability to, because see, when search brings the results to you, in the first instance, it is being very selective. It is very restricted and more focused results. But supposing it is not doing a good job and you want more results to come back, then the option I showed you at the bottom, which says include omitted results, I would click on that to get more coming back to me. So when I do links, I find links that has all of the domains, anything that concern. Now, when I did aofirs.org, I'm surprised I have these many links that are, indexed in the search engine. So my SEO guy is doing a wonderful job, seems like, and our domain seems to be more popular. Another thing what link will bring is when you did link aofirs.org, it could be a link mentioned in the URL somewhere. So as an example, this one, okay, sashub.com is not coming from aofirs.org, but it has a mention of aofirs.org reviews, right? So these two words are there. Similarly, so it is bringing everything that has a word, dot, or considered aofirs.org as a single word. So it's going to bring it wherever it's mentioned in the domains. Just in our own internal database, we have about more than 10,000 articles. So at least I know there could be 10,000 links attached to it. So we have a very huge website. That's why it is showing so many results. But at the same time, you see that it has so much to show you, where you feel that you need to do investigation or go deeper into looking for links. Then instead of using in URL, you can use link with a colon sign.
What do we think were the omitted result? Were the results at the beginning that had like 57 or whatever? What was being omitted, I guess, or why was it such a small list?
That's a kind of a mystery. There is a lot of assumptions. People have different ways of explaining it. I can just give my personal opinion. Some of the pages that are not as dynamic, or they don't have a fresh information doesn't keep changing, search engine drops those. Certain pages are cached, but they were somehow showing a 404 error because of whatever reason. That wouldn't appear because search engine has dropped those or has given it less of a ranking and probably not as important. Then there could be duplication, like when people are updating their website or updating pages, they're changing the links at the top, so links may have moved. All those things could be the factor, but Google is not wouldn't reveal exactly. But at the same time, it's kind of unbelievable to think that it has 4,020,000. So assumption is, and who knows if it is a fact or a fiction, or if it is just to put somebody in that euphoria of or having that kind of sense where they feel that, oh, so many results, Google is so big, right? So mighty. I mean, who knows what the motivation is, but for me to look at this figure and to understand, I don't even have 4 million, let alone 4 million. I don't think I have more than 40,000 pages linked to my domain. But what if it is keeping history of my website, history of my pages over 7 years since we started with this domain, and it is including all of that? Still 4 million. Maybe it is separating
other websites pointing to you, so maybe a combination of all of that.
Could be a combination, could be something that for me it's, I mean, for me it's unbelievable. And you know that I've worked on the algorithms quite extensively. I have a feel of how it works. I do have some sense of knowing to what extent those pages would have had been indexed. So to say 4 million of these with these wordings, who knows? But since we are only going to, in reality, even if there were 4 million that were around, it would take me over a
it's gonna
month to
go-
go through
Yeah,
it.
right. It's gonna go through all that.
There is when you're doing social media searches, okay, I think what we have 5, 8, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's just take a little bit of a break. I just want to do some complex search queries.
Okay,
I'm going to select some of them, and we try to do this today. Next thing that I want to start with, well, first of all, we've already started with complex search queries, literally. The next thing is to start with those chapters that cover traditional research methods, or something that we want to put under the umbrella of basics of, and obviously anybody who has who's coming from librarian background would understand the sampling techniques, the type of data, qualitative, quantitative. Don't you get like the kind of work that involves doing, some sort of sampling, or if not, then at least qualitative research and quantitative research are sort of the two uh, different approaches to doing research work.
sure.
That's so if that is something that you want to learn, which it could be a refresher, but I'm guessing you probably know what traditional research methods are. So we'll be starting with that. So just going to run some complex searches. I'm assuming that these might be of interest to you, and for others, generally, these are the typical searches that people look for. So I'm just guessing it might be useful. Twitter, for instance, if you want to search into Twitter for finding something that has to do with, you know, um, specific type of information that you want to pick exclusively from social media accounts, usually you use symbols like hashtag, and you use as a symbol. Um, Obviously, because that's what they call handles, or names that you give, or pseudonyms that appear in those searches carry those special words. So attaching it with the hashtag means that it's going to search for those words from the social media accounts. As an example, this is coming from twitter.com, so I've restricted it with the site operator. I'm trying to find all of these tags which are given a choice of with the or, to find any of these, and copy editor, proofreader, all of these, and then I've given it a date range, right? So if I run this one, I do get results which look like this. It's exactly same query. I've just copied and pasted it. So I'm getting words like copywriters, hiring, jobs, whatever. So they're going to come from Twitter account. And here, even if I use the partial domain, like it doesn't contain the
HTTP or
subdomain,
www or all.
but it has in that site twitter.com. So that's where it's going to restrict the search to. So twitter.com, it's a mobile device, so the mobile version of it is bringing this. Then you've got another one that's coming from Twitter again. All of these are Twitter, and the hashtags you will find will ensure that it is coming from a resource within Twitter that has hashtags mentioned. Whenever you are organizing your data or your interest that is fed into Twitter or any social media account, it asks you to give those keywords or something that attaches to whatever you are, announcing at that time. So those are mentioned with the hashtags, and they start to come up. So any of these that I click on will have with the hashtags like jobs and all of it. So let's see if I click on the first one. Only thing is that I may have to log into my account if it's not public information. Well, turns out it is. And it should have the tags like recruiting, recruitment, hiring.
that's
See, all these tags are showing up.
prompting
You don't
to-
have to,
you don't have to-
yeah, you don't have to dig in too much. You could just run these queries. And of course, the date would be mentioned. If it is not mentioned anywhere on the content page, it will be running behind in the source code. I don't see the dates. Oh, here it is, days 27, but I don't know where the date is. 8 hours ago, whatever.
Before, after, oh, between March and May. Is that what we did?
Yeah, we just did view source.
Mhm. Every possible.
It's a lot of dates.
Mm-hmm.
When it was uploaded.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Minute date.
time. Now, I guess everybody is trying to hide a few things that are otherwise easy to reveal, and they're doing it by design intentionally. Anyway, dates would be mentioned somewhere here. It's a very long list. But the date range, you can be sure that it is obviously been responded within that date range. So definitely you will find the date range somewhere in there.
Yeah, or at least listed on the, well, some of the results show the date, but not all of them.
One thing that you have to be careful about is the length of the query. You don't want to make it too long. It'll start to ignore after certain number of characters.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is one. Then want to try the next one. Now in the second one, we are trying to look for sites that has any domain name with the attachment to .gov, .edu, .org, and in text I want well, I guess what we're trying to do here is to find the contact information of chief executive, CEO, director, or senior people in the organization, and I want their email addresses. So with the site option, you could see that I have written site:/gov.gov with the asterisk. Again, 3 of these are given as choices with the site operator used. So if I don't use, let's say, site, and I just write, asterisk.gov, it's probably not the best idea, even though it is going to find something that mentions the site with the .edu, but it may not be coming from the site itself. It could be anywhere on the content page, as I mentioned. So I have used site at least 3 times here to compare with, or to have given it an option. And towards the end of it, I wrote the word email, and I emphasized that it should be part of the search results. So the word email is actually, as a single word, is been put within the quotation marks. And I'm going to try this in the search to see what it brings. Looks okay to me. The White House executive officers. So let's see if I can find something on the page that has the word email in it. So contact us.
Yeah, it's a form. Makes sense.
Inspect source.
There's 8,000.
So many of them, it's not even going.
Wow.
Unresponsive. Okay. Never mind, we can go to another page. Well, it would have, here it is, email address.
Yeah.
No. Now, if you want to find the phone number of someone, just not only the email, but the telephone number that starts with the area code 407. Notice how I've used these two brackets or two parentheses, basically just for it to match exactly the way I've written it.
So I see a typo. That you think that'll make a difference in the
Where?
search for telephone after chairman email? There's an
Oh, telephone.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Those are my eagle eyes. I just might. They always navigate
that's good.
typos. I don't know why.
No, but this is going to be very useful. This habit, obviously, it's going to. Let's try it. Now it looks okay, but
Yeah.
David McDonald, telephone 407-772-7164. Chief Executive, CEO, Director. Okay. So this worked fine for us. The URLs, you could see .edu, .org, .gov. You know, it's coming all from the sources that we directed, and telephone numbers are all starting from 407. Now, I'm going to make a little bit of a change. Supposing I need to find telephone numbers that are Hmm. Nine 7 3 7 1 8, really making it long. So what I've done is to separate tel from the numbers so that tel and 407 don't get connected. I've put in text again, and I've put 40797. So any of these phone numbers or area codes of phone numbers I'm going to find for these people and see what it does. 718, 718, 718, 973. Surely there'll be 407 as well somewhere. So, you know, for recruiters who do a lot of search for resumes, or those people who are collecting contacts for sales leads, they could use this query. In query number 4, you can notice that I've used asterisk with the executive, the word executive, and left a gap of a single character to ensure that this is one word that I'm looking for, or any word that attaches to executives. It could be senior executive, chief executive, whatever, sales executive. So it opens up a little bit of more opportunity to find any of the job description which ends with the word executive. In URL UK, which means I'm trying to find something that is government related, but it is coming from a site that has probably coming from UK somewhere. So it could be any kind of domain with the extension that has
chief executive. Oh, interesting.
Why did the aesthetic didn't work? That's kind of odd. So anyway,
you had asterisk executive space executive.
yeah, I mean, aesthetic should work. I'm gonna try it again. Let's try it this way.
Was it because it was?
I just removed in text. See?
Oh, I see.
This is where I did. This is what used to be. Let me try again.
Maybe because it was not looking at that asterisk in a quote as being a specific quote versus a wild card. I don't know. No, there it is. UK Executive University, email marketing.
uky.edu, UK, email is there for sure. It's in the textual part, probably. See here, email. Everything is working fine, except that when I used in text,
I didn't like
with
that.
the asterisk, well, it should work. I mean, theoretically speaking. So may want to look this up later, because I don't want to waste too much of your time here. But I'll look it up. If you want to search for, you see, there is something called reputation management these days, where you are given the task to find out where there is a negative propaganda or some word which is, you know, slanderous, and it is, you know, causing a kind of a issue with the reputation of a company or a person. You do need to look it up. You also want to check to see if certain information is public or it is concealed. Legal issues, lawsuits, you know, just doing some due diligence background checks on a company, then you can use a simple search like this one. For instance, I've put AIRS Association of Internet Research Specialists. I've written case and litigation, it's the simplest way, if there is mention of it. Association of Internet Research Specialists, case, litigation, review, reputation, opinion, scams. Important thing that I'd like to mention in this query is, in spite of its simplicity, most important is selection of keywords, so that it conveys a meaning, or it sort of has a variation of wording it, except that the intent or the objective is achieved without losing the context. So I've used words like case, litigation, review, reputation, opinion. See, you can see these words. They're carefully selected. Most of these wordings you do get when you write something, as a loose query, but with a sort of a more of a context that you are trying to discover. You can look at the results and see how uh, the results are mentioning it, or what other words are being used, as in stemming and lemmatization, where you start to pick those words and make a list of it. So when I did try to find a little bit of a background on Association of Internet Research Specialists, I did use these words and pick them from the search results. I'm going to try this query to see where and see what type of information it reveals. There is reviews here, this word review. It just sort of right away gives you a lot of information about, without you being very specific, checking. You can just do a generic or general search to find everything that is said about the company. If there's litigation, it'll show up. Reviews, Feb rate, so it is giving a rating for our website. You have to read between the search results. Reputation, there'll be something mentioned about review looks like most widely used. Case study assignment. My God, how did this come out? Internet Research Archive. Workshop case study assignment.
Oh, because case.
Some information do get leaked, and you don't want that to appear. So you can sort of scan through it and see case studies. We had a litigation going on, lasted for 2.5 years with ADP.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's a public company. So we were like, kind of like a small pond, right? It's tiny and we fought the case. We won eventually. Of course, we ended up doing a sort of a compromise, because it was costing us a lot of money, but at least we didn't give away what they were wanting to get. They wanted to get the name CIRS because they have a certification called CIR. That's a Certified Internet Recruiter. And they were, teaching recruiters how to do online search to find resumes. And they thought that we are, sort of using their, their content. Turns out that they were using our content.
I'm sorry, it wasn't fun, but yeah, oddly.
And that was the bummer for them. Second, they didn't know the attorney didn't know, the people at the senior level, they didn't know. Then they had situation with the words AIRS, And AIRS is actually an acronym for us, Association of Internet Research Specialists. And because it was legally obtained, and by the way, we'll be covering trademarks and copyrights, and that's where you will learn about it. But I'm just letting you know a few things that are really at the crux of it, like which defines whether there is an infringement or not. Things like if you have obtained the name of your company legally, um, and you know that you have to use that as an acronym for, you don't put like long names everywhere, right? You need to have an acronym. So we used AIRS, and they said, no, we have branding for AIRS from way back. Turns out that they had that registered in the WIPO, that is a centralized database of all the copyrights or all the trademarks. And obviously, this was the problem that we were having, because ours didn't get registered in time. In fact, they were there earlier, so we had to let go of IRS. And also, well, we were using it in the domain as what was it, AIRSassociation.org. That was our main domain. So we had to actually change the domain name to make it into AOFIRS. And we lost so much time and effort that we put in bringing that domain up in higher ranking and so on. So it was a big problem. So these are the two things we gave up. Not the two things, just the AIRS part, that we just got rid of it. Everything else they wanted like, my left arm and my right arm also. But then we just sort of had it was a kind of a mediation at the end, but it was a formal mediation with the judge and everybody present from their side, also their attorneys and mine, and we did this virtually, like over the internet. So it was kind of an experience. And now that I know so much about trademarks and copyrights, I can really tell you how that works, at least in Canada. So anyway, so to find background, these cases and stuff like that. If you have to look for, say, for foreclosure properties that you might be interested in buying, this seems to work really nicely. This query writing list. See, anytime you want list of something, just use the word list. Just list itself is going to bring you a lot more information against any other word that you would use. So I always use the word list when I want a lot of information as a listed or a archived or somewhat, sequentially stated with numbers and all that. On those content pages, I always use the word list. So here I put the word list with emphasis within quotes. So it makes sure, even if you don't put in text or in URL, none of those you need to use. If you put something within quotation marks, it sort of tells the search that it has to be found mandatorily anywhere on the content. May it be the header or, so just the quotation marks are very useful. That's why I put it within quotes. Foreclosure, delinquent, property lien. See over here. Okay, so there is always some creativity involved in executing the search queries, where you need to be mindful of knowing that there is always a fine-tuning required, or you may want to be more precise. Like, for example, you may ask, I've used the word foreclosure and delinquent with the or as a choice, but then I've put a single word property within quotation marks. So why did I do that? Was there a need? And if I put it within quotation marks, then would this separate the word lien and auction as two options and should have nothing to do with foreclosure or delinquency? here. Like I could have written it any other way if I'd wanted, but I wrote it by design, by intention. I wrote it this way. So
Right.
why is that? This is what I would want to explain. It's not that it's something that I really needed to, but I feel at times that I ask questions myself sometimes to find out whether or not it is worth discussing or telling the students,
Right.
even if it's not script in the script. Okay, so that's why we take a little bit extra time. Occasionally we don't really end up finishing things on time. It's only because of this, but it's for the best. Eh? So let's suppose I had, instead of putting what if I wrote it this way? Now compare 7 with, let's say, 7.1. What do you see? I would have done it different in 7.1, and why would you think that 7 was better for me to do? That's the hint. So 7 is better than 7.1. Why is that?
Yeah, you
What am
want,
I doing
what,
here?
it looks like you're wanting delinquent, lien, but definitely the word foreclosure or property.
Word plays a huge part in designing your search query, and that sort of gets ignored because you feel confident that with the operators, you can basically bring it to the accuracy levels, but without understanding how the query needs to be structured in terms of placement of words
Mhm.
and in terms of uh, giving it a meaning, by making a careful choice of words, you would end up um, you will end up getting lost because you
Yeah.
won't get the results. So, and it is very hard to go back and then figure it out. So, you know just to get to a sense of what I'm discussing with you right now will give you an understanding of what I'm trying to say. See, with the foreclosure and delinquent, these are the two words that has a relationship against or with each other that sort of gives the search a choice that can easily be compared with the or operator without giving it a different meaning, or we are comparing apples with apples here.
Right.
Foreclosure and delinquency sort of has the same meaning, or in the sense in which you are using for the objective
Yeah,
of
one
your
comes
search.
before the other, but they're related for sure.
They're related. They're related, but if I find a delinquent property or I find a foreclosure, it means that I'm looking for something that I can buy at a fairly good price, or I'm trying to find or take benefit of somebody's misery, in other words. So foreclosure and delinquency right here.
Yeah.
So they work together. Now lien and auction, they work well in terms of how it is connected with the bank or the lender, right?
Yep.
So lien and auction is a process of selling something, right? Kind of. So I have separated these two as if it has to be compared together with the or, and lien and auction has to be compared together as a separate kind of a with a different objective. In between, I need to create a barrier because I don't want lien to be attached to delinquency. I don't want auction to be connected to delinquency. So in between, I need to create a buffer so that these appear as separate, uh, set of comparison, and this is a separate set of comparison. I use the word property, something that I could have written like the way I did in 7.1 after. but I chose to put it in between and within quotes because it is in relation to property, and that is indispensable. So
Yeah.
Put that in between as a buffer. Then after auction, Florida has no connection with auction. What it is saying is, whenever you're writing something like a place or a destination, or for instance, in this case, the word Florida means that the search knows that it has nothing to do with auction, but more to do with location.
Right.
So we don't have to put it or separate this, or there is no need for us to think that the word auction will be connected to Florida. Instead, lien and auction will be compared. We know that, we assume that. After that, we have, the date range after 2018, but before 2020. And we are looking for a list of those properties. So this one is better than 7 is better than 7.1.
Makes sense.
Looking for a rental, finding a house with the square foot. Here we are dealing with date range, or not date range, just the range. Okay?
Yeah, cost.
Just the range with the 2 periods. So if I want square foot, 3,800 to 6,000, be mindful that some words like house is fine. Of course, it is understood, but the way you write square foot will depend on how content pages display square foot as a
SQF,
yeah. I mean, if it displays it like this, then you are pretty much confined in the sense that, unless you have a exact matching, it won't show up. But more than likely, it's going to appear like this.
Yeah.
So that sense of how it is presented generally in the pages, you may want to be mindful. Now, 3,800 and 6,000. If I have to find it in Florida, I don't need to put it within quotes. Orlando is a city which is specifically mentioned as a confined or restricted to a location. Orange County, all of this I've put within quotes as if it is to be returned mandatorily. Florida for sure will be returned. We don't have to emphasize. It's not going to replace Florida with anything else. Florida is absolute, and it is the state of Florida. So no need. I can even put it within quotes, but when there is no need to put something in quotes, it's famous enough, it's understood by certain. Yeah. Don't do it. That's just a rule. That's just a practice habit. Okay. So if I run this, let's see what it's going to bring for me. $2,500 a month.
And so 19. They have square feet shoved together as one word, but it still figured it out because it started as SQ.
Yeah, it did.
Instead of SQFT, it's separate.
So, in spite of whatever I tell you, just listen to what Google does. Because Google is, I know why it did that, because I did not put it within quotations.
Right. And it was just looking for SQ or FT, and which is fine because you don't want to be too limiting.
Yeah, sometimes
so
if you're not sure.
Square feet, SQ space, FT. Yeah, there's so many variables. Right.
So I guess, at times you don't want to put certain words within quotes, just leave it open, because it's going to do its own lemmatization and stemming stuff. It's just going to do it on its own. Anyway, we got the results. You see, we can use the periods or ranges in two senses or in two different ways of mentioning the numbers or the ranges. This is a dollar sign, which means the money part. This is the square footage. So it sort of works really nice when you're using the range, and you can use multiple instances of ranges, but don't use it where you have to contradict something like I mean, you can't use 3800 and then 4500, 6500 like that. If you use it like that, then you have to use it with the or sign, because you don't want to contradict what you have
Yeah,
stated
because that would
here.
have been an and or something. Yeah, yeah.
You can do it like this also. It's going to give, different ranges of square footage. You don't have to open up individually, but I'm just saying that this is how you can use it. All right, then we've got Airbnb rental. Again, same thing, but if I want to find something for rent through Airbnb, I'm just going to mention it like this. I could even make it better if I used in text. There is no need really. For now, I think this is good enough. So Justin, besides pending top, what happened? Oh, it's a forwarding. I don't want to. Yeah, this will all be Airbnb.
Yep.
Okay. It's Friday and it's time to plan your weekend.
Yep.
I guess. And I see you on Monday. I think this should do it. We've done like 9 examples. There could be several more that you may want to discuss with me on Monday, though.
Okay.
I see. Depends on your kind of work, line of work. Like I know that Andrew would love to do a lot more examples on doing HR search or software searches, things like that. Maybe you have something that you'd be interested in. So that would actually be very useful if you are to, if we can do some searches, real life searches for something that you need to, or you work with mostly. But if you are not sure, you can always go to the table of content and look up chapters. Which one?
I'm just thinking a lot of this might be good for students who may not have access to library databases, but are trying to search, doing research.
Yes.
There's a lot of free, databases and sources out there that are scholarly, and this type of search methodology is real. I wish I'd have known this a long time ago.
Right,
I knew some of it, but not near the level that you're going into.
Like we can probably your students are interested in doing some academic search, research papers, literature searches. So there is this chapter, it's chapter 17, news, article, blogs, groups, forums, research. video, so we can look up research here to articles, and this is a whole list of different scenarios or situational searches,
Yeah.
I guess. So you can look this up, maybe mark some of these from here. Find names, contacts, probably not as much of useful, but starts with chapter 16 onwards. You could see that it's got headings on top that tells you the type of searches, like author, books, literature, speeches. Just just mark them for Monday if you get a chance, and then we can do those. So they're more useful. It's better for me to because I have 466 examples altogether that I can show you. So that would help. Awesome, great. Thank you so much.
Have a good weekend.
I'll see you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. Okay. Bye bye. Good night.